a lot of people. Good afternoon, everybody. Um, welcome. I just want to, thank everybody for attending. Um, My name is James Swansea. I'm the policy manager here at Restore Justice Foundation, where we advocate for children who have received extreme sentences, and where we also deal with the families of those same individuals. So I just want to say thank you again for attending. And today we'll be having a conversation about an amazing report that was just released, More Than a Conviction. In addition to this report, there's also a website with stories and a short video about people who have been affected by juvenile life without parole sentences. This project is important because it is real perspectives. You will hear from real people that actually experienced what this sentence can do to individuals and families. And it's extremely hard to talk about this issue. And the people that you will hear from, they're definitely amazing and inspiring people. And Lizzie will be putting, in the chat the report for individuals to read the stories and to look at the video that I just spoke of. But before we get started, I like to do a little housekeeping. If possible, I would like for people to put their questions and also introductions in the chat. And if time allows, at the end um, of this webinar, we will definitely try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. And as you see, we are recording this, and we will share this recording with everyone who is registered. So I'm going to start asking questions, but before I do that, I want to read a little brief bio on our panelists today. So Marshawn Allen is the Director of Policy Communications at the Illinois Prison Project, where he leads initiatives to reduce incarceration and advocate for a fairer and more equitable legal system. At the age of 15, Marshawn received a sentence of life without parole for a minor role in an offense. After serving almost 25 years in prison, he was released in 2016. Thank you for being here today, Marshawn. And we also have Eric Anderson, who is a reentry case manager at Precious Blood Ministry of Reconciliation. And he also leads restorative justice circles and circle keeper trainings inside Illinois prisons. Eric originally received a life without parole. Um, Eric originally received a life without parole without the possibility of parole sentence at the age of 15 and came home in 2023 after 27 years. We also have with us today Julie Anderson, who is Restore Justice's outreach director. She helps guide Restore Justice's work to reduce extreme prison sentences for young people and to improve prison conditions. Julie's son, Eric, was sentenced to juvenile life without the possibility of parole in 1995 when he was just 15 years old. We also have with us today Corey Johnson, who currently works as a manager at IHOP. He was instrumental in starting peer education programs while he was incarcerated at Menard Correctional Center, and I definitely attended some of those, so I know the work that Corey definitely put in. Um, and he helped create the Kiwani Horizons, an electronic newsletter by and for the people who are incarcerated in Illinois. Corey received a life without the possibility of parole sentence at the age of 16. He was released from prison in August 2024 after serving 25 years of incarceration. So Corrine Cannonberg, one of the project's author, is the communication director for the Alliance of Higher Education in Prison. While a graduate student, Corrine was introduced to college and prison programs through Princeton's Prison Teaching Initiative, through which she taught several writing and history courses. And we also have with us today Michelle Kinfack, the other author of the project, who is a research specialist and racial justice fellow at the Chicago Urban League, where she leads projects on equity and empowerment. She also collaborates with Loyola University's Institute for Racial Justice to foster social and educational and economic equality. So We just gonna dive right in. We're gonna get this thing started so we can hear some perspectives from these amazing people that I just spoke to you about. And my first question is going to be for Kareen and Michelle, the two authors of this report. So, Kareen and Michelle, why is this project more than a conviction important in Illinois, and why should people care?
Thank you, James. It's really a pleasure to finally be able to share this project. And given that More Than a Conviction is a storytelling project, I think it's fitting that I briefly tell the story behind it. This story started in 1978 when Illinois abolished its parole system. A year later, in 1979, a 17-year-old boy received a life without parole sentence for a crime he committed when he was 16. He was the first of many. And between 1979 and 2012, over 100 children in Illinois were sentenced to die in prison. And for decades, society forgot about them. Fast forward in the 2000s, more than 2 decades after the first life sentence was handed down, the landscape started changing. In 2005, the Supreme Court ruled in Roper v. Simons that the death penalty is unconstitutional for youth under age 18 at time of the crime. So this decision and subsequent ones brought attention back to the children who were serving life sentences in Illinois, another form of death penalty. So in 2008, Northwestern University conducted research and wrote a report about children serving a life sentence in Illinois. The report was entitled Categorically Less Culpable. And that title really underscored the need for sentencing consideration that reflect the difference between children and adults. This was a great start. But when Northwestern conducted the study, none of these children had an out date. They were still living with the idea that they were going to die in prison. Then came Miller v. Alabama in 2012, when the Supreme Court banned mandatory life without parole sentences for children 17 and younger at time of the offense, though the decision was not retroactive, meaning it didn't apply to those who were sentenced before 2012. In 2014, the Illinois Supreme Court ruling in People v. Davis made Miller retroactive statewide. And those serving life sentences started receiving new sentences as judges took into considerations factors known as Miller factors, including children's age and maturity at time of the offense, their backgrounds, circumstances, and potential for rehabilitation. And in the late 2010s, those formerly sentenced to life imprisonment began to be released from prison. And by 2023, at the time of the first interviews for this project, many had been released. And since their release, some have been exonerated, though several also remain incarcerated. One of the goals of this project is to address the research gap by documenting these people's experiences, their childhood, their circumstances, their incarceration, and for some post-incarceration experiences, combined with that of their families. Because when a child is sentenced, their family is too. And most importantly, we wanted to capture the impact of Miller as these people went from I am going to die in prison to I have a chance to be released. And the other goal of this project is to share these stories. Participants in this project were incredibly generous, and it's really important for the public to hear their voices. Their stories reveal early exposure to poverty, to violence, trauma, but they also bring to light hope, dreams, courage, resilience, and most importantly, this story highlights the journeys of transformation and success of those who entered prison as children and were released as adults. These are really powerful stories to show that no human being is irredeemable and that these people are really more than their conviction. These are also powerful stories to help us as a society to reflect on the magnitude as well as the ripple effect of life without parole. And finally, these are powerful stories to tell us or to remind us that we should really all care about JLOAP. And I will let Corinne explain the why further.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everyone for being here. It is um, such a pleasure to be able to share this report and this project with folks in Illinois and for folks from everywhere else as well. I think it's important to remember that the United States is the only place in the world that sentences children to die in prison without the opportunity for parole. Um, it's important that we highlight these stories and talk about this issue so that people have awareness about this fact. And people in American society, people in Illinois should be concerned about sentencing um, young people to die in prison because this is not humane. It's an inhumane practice. Extreme sentencing, and particularly extreme sentencing of young people, impacts the individual, but it also impacts families, communities, and we also know that lengthy incarceration does not yield positive outcomes for society. It also generates high costs to taxpayers to incarcerate people. Um, and most of all, this is a storytelling project, which Michelle touched on. And I think this is where we bring in our expertise as people with backgrounds in the humanities. And storytelling is really powerful because it allows people to see the humanity behind these issues. And in particular, what we really want to highlight in this project is the humanity of the folks, the children who were sentenced to juvenile life without parole in Illinois. So we not only touch in the report and the wider project on data and in-depth research, but we allow people to tell their own stories, which helps to dismantle stereotypes and misconceptions folks might have about people who are incarcerated and behind bars and emphasize the real people behind this issue. So thanks to those who are joining us on this call today.
Thank you, Corinne and Michelle, for that great explanation and breakdown on why this project is so important. We definitely appreciate that. It's been a long time coming, and it's very important to us. So, moving right along, this next question will be for Marshawn and Julie. Marshawn, uh, why did you choose to share your story? And did you have any fears or hesitation? And what does it mean to you to have people read about your story?
Thank you, James, and good afternoon, everyone. I chose to share my story because I know firsthand how unjust and excessive sentence laws destroy. Firsthand how unjust and excessive sentence law destroyed lives. Sorry. My own experience of being sentenced as a teenager to life without parole showed me how the system punishes people unfairly, and share my stories about putting a face to this injustice. It's about making sure people understand that we are not just statistics, that we are real people with families, with futures that have been stolen by these laws that don't serve justice. So I want my story to be a part of changing the system so that no one else has to go through what we went through as kids. And as far as like hesitation, there's some hesitation. I share my story a lot, but there's always hesitation. There's always fear. Because, when you share your story, you open yourself up to judgment, to criticism, and to the fear that people won't understand the full picture. There's always that hesitation. Will people see me for who I am today, or will they see the crime I was convicted of? But I also knew that staying silent wouldn't change anything. The fear of speaking out was real, but the fear of doing nothing and letting the system continue to harm people was even greater. And as far as like what it means to have people read my story, it means everything. It means that people are bearing witness to the reality of our criminal legal system. It means that for a moment, someone is stepping outside of their assumptions and seeing the human impact of these laws. And it's powerful because when people read stories, I mean really read them, they begin to ask questions. They begin to see the injustice and understand why reform is necessary. But more than anything, it means hope. Hope that enough people will care, hope that someone in a position of power would choose action over apathy, and hope that those who have been forgotten, those still incarcerated under these laws, the people we left behind, would know that their lives and that we are fighting for them. So that's why I tell my story, because stories have power. And if my story can help bring about change, then it's well worth it.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you for that, Marshawn. It's definitely a vulnerable space, and having to relive that aspect. So it definitely means a lot for you to be able to do that. Julie, um, why did you choose to share your story as a parent whose child received a life sentence?
Um, well, it was to mirror Marshawn, and also I just hate going after him because he speaks so eloquently. um,
Mm,
it was really to change the narrative. I think that so many people, when they read something in the newspaper or they think about people in prison, they make a snap judgment that they're throwaway people, that they're just, their families don't matter, or they don't even think that they have families or people who care and love them. But all of those people inside, and it was very humbling for me when this happened because I truthfully had never thought about anyone in prison until this happened. And as I started going to visit my son Eric, who's here, um, I realized that uh, there's so many amazing individuals, and these were children, and they're more than a number, and they're more than a conviction. They're real, true people who have families who love them, care about them, and reliving the most difficult and horrific moments of your life are pretty challenging. But the idea is that if you can change people's hearts, then you can change their minds.
Thank you for that, Jules. I met you while I was still incarcerated, so I definitely understand what it was that you were going through as Eric and the other guys that I was incarcerated with. So we want to hear a little bit, from Eric and Corey. So this question is for Eric, Corey, and Marshawn. Um, can you tell us a little bit about what your reentry journey has been like and what you're doing now? Uh, Eric, you can go ahead and go first.
Sure. Can you hear me? Yeah, sure. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. So yeah, my reentry journey has been just that, right? A journey. I I really think of it with a little bit of hindsight being 2020 as a very long transition that I didn't know I was gonna have to go through when found out that I was gonna get released. I thought like, oh man, you are in prison and then you get out of prison and you keep it moving. But I found out that like it really is a journey, a transition. Somebody really smart told me about 3 months after I got out that change is instant. Right, I walked over a door, a threshold, and I went from being incarcerated to being free, and that was an instantaneous change. But the transition from being incarcerated to being free really is really been a transition, and it can be difficult at times. But I will say a thing that my mom and I talk about a lot is that my very worst day uh, out here in the world is about 10,000 times better than my very best day in prison. And that is literally my worst day out here compared to my best, very best day in prison. 10,000 times better out here. So there's that. And I will say that it may be that I have that view and I can hold on to that perspective a little easier because of the work I do. What I do now is I work full time at Precious Blood Ministry of Reconciliation as a pre release case manager, specifically working with some people at IPP who are focusing on people who have been incarcerated at least 20 years and have at least 10 years to go and are engaged in the executive clemency or commutation or youthful parole process. And so in my role in that capacity, I help garner resources and make those connections for people who would potentially be being released if granted some clemency or youthful parole. And that's an awesome part of my job. And it is just that, it is a part of my job. The other thing that I do is I engage in restorative practices, specifically peace circle keeping, and more to the point, I'm a peace circle keeper trainer in conjunction with a partner here at Precious Blood, Sister Jana Ryan, who started this program with me of going inside prisons to uh, give these tools to and share these tools with people who are currently incarcerated, with the hope that those tools would in fact create for opportunities for better outcomes daily in life in those places, and create for opportunities for better outcomes upon release, right? And I'm glad to say that I think we're being very successful with that. We just finished conducting our second staff circle experience with the DOC. So we feel like we're really moving along in a very impactful direction. I think probably that's good for me for now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Part of the job, right? Like what a life, right? We always say it. So thank you. I appreciate that. Corey, same question, right? Can you just give me a little bit more about what your reentry journey has been like and what you're doing now?
It's been an experience to say the least. Uh, Lucky for me, and I do consider it to be a blessing. I went to Kiwani and then I went to work release here in Peoria. So instead of just being thrust out, I kind of had like a step down, if you will. Um, like I said, it's been an experience because being locked up at such a young age and for 25 years, it's we are desensitized and oversensitized to certain things. And to a certain extent, we don't take certain things that's going on in the free world into consideration. Um, so being in work release, I was talking about it the other day. Something as simple as going to Walmart was actually overwhelming to me when I first went. It was too many moving pieces, too many things to keep my eye on. So it's kind of crazy to say, but I kind of went from being calm to my anxiety level increasing initially when I got out. Um, the desire to succeed not only in work release but also in the free world was messing with my anxiety also. But 2 weeks after getting into work release, I was working at IHOP as a server and at Caterpillar, both full time. If I wasn't at work, I was sleep. They had time for nothing else, uh, which also granted me the opportunity to save a lot, and actually prepare for my eventual release. Um, I quit working at Caterpillar after working both for 17 months, and I'm currently the manager at IHOP in Peoria. It's like Eric said, it's been a journey, but it's one that I more than welcome. Uh, some of the things that I learned while incarcerated, especially, budgeting. And I tell people that if you've been locked up and you had to figure out how you was gonna make state pay stretch, you know how to budget, you know. Uh, so that helped me out once I first got locked up and I had to pay my own light bill, own gas bill, own water bill, rent, car insurance, car note. Being able to budget actually helped me be able to do all those things. Uh, I have a baby on the way, so I had to. Didn't it wasn't planned, but now that has to be taken into consideration also. So, like I say, it's a journey and it's an experience, one that I'm more than welcome. But Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I appreciate that and congratulations, man. Congratulations on that, man. It's definitely that's definitely something that's gonna take you into a different area. And I just want to say kudos to you, right? Like I definitely understand the magnitude of coming out and thinking that you can, you know, take on the world, right? Uh, Working two full times jobs and that's just you know the passion that we come home with. So uh I appreciate that, Corey. That really shared a lot as far as the desensitizing and oversensitizing also. Marshawn, I'm gonna ask you to share a little bit about your journey also.
Yeah, thank you. And congratulations, Corey. Yeah, my journey, it was a journey as well. I think that mine was a little different from everyone's, and I say that with a lot of respect and uh, um, empathy about what we go through. I know when I was incarcerated and hearing a lot of stories about what before I was released and understanding people who have been released and the challenges and stuff, I was really, really worried about that. And I started thinking about that while I was on the inside. And I think that one of the things that helped me was that, like early on, probably about 9 years before I was released, I had the opportunity to be transferred to a medium institution with my life sentence and be able to expose me to like school and college program and stuff like that. And I think that that helped me a lot. And also, like just during my incarceration, I always had the mindset of that. Um, I was going home. Like I didn't really embrace that I was in prison mentally. I always had my mind on like being home, and I think that that kind of helped me adjust from being in prison to coming out. And so, also when I got here, I had a lot of family support, friends and stuff like that that were there for me. I came home and I started working as a real analyst at a real estate agent, a real estate appraisal agency, I should say, and realized that wasn't for me. And then I had to look for a job, and I ended up working at Starbucks, and that was new. Like I had, this was literally like the first real job I've had outside of prison, and I didn't want to work there. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I needed a job, and I took it, and that ended up being one of the best experiences of my life. That really taught me a lot. I ended up becoming a supervisor there, like within a year working there, winning partner of the quarter within the first 3 months of me working there. And it was crazy because I was messing up everybody's drinks. So if you came to Starbucks and you got your drink messed up, I was I'm sorry, but it was hard trying to remember all those drinks. But Yeah, I when I came home, I started volunteering with Restore Justice. At the time, going on lobby days and trying to learn more about the policy process because I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to share my story, and I wanted to use my story to help advocate for people who are still incarcerated. And so I started volunteering, and then I eventually became a member of the board for Restore Justice, and then employed there. Um, and Later end up moving to DC in 2020 during the height of COVID, and taking a job with a organization called Fair and Just Prosecution. I was a research and policy fellow there, and then got a job at Represent Justice, became their national policy director, and then the vice president of advocacy and partnership. I got promoted. And then I came back home, started applying for law school because that was one of my dreams while I was incarcerated. I had became a paralegal, law clerk, and a jailhouse lawyer, and I wanted to. One of my dreams while I was incarcerated was to go to law school and become a lawyer. And I had given up on that for a long time, but I had when I came home and I got my bachelor's degree, I was like, "There's nothing to stop me from going to law school now." And I was getting a lot of encouragement from my family and friends and stuff like that for me to do it, and I just went and did it. So now I'm a third year student at Chicago Kent College of Law. And I also my for my day job, I go to school that evening, and in the day job, I'm the director of policy communications, as you mentioned, IPP. And my job there is to try to advocate for policies that would help reduce mass incarceration and to help people be reunited with their families. And so I really, really, really enjoy this work, and it's just a pleasure to be here and to be able to use my experiences and the knowledge I got from incarcerated to be able to make a positive difference in society. So
Thank you, Marshawn. We really appreciate the things that you're doing. It's like it's I like to say it's always somewhat, automatic that, like I was just saying with Corey, that we can come out, and take on so many things because we've spent that time just, just wanting to naturally give back. So we appreciate that, and thank you. So the my next question is for Julie. Um, can you say more about the particular experience as a parent of having your child sentenced to life in prison and then supporting them in their reentry journey?
Um, well, I could sum it up in one word: challenging. uh, uh, Devastating is what having your child sentenced to life in prison. I mean, I think for most parents, especially moms, that if there was a way they could trade places, they would. They would trade places with anyone, really, to not to think and to worry all the time when they're in there. And are they going to be okay? And are they making good choices? You still do that whole choices thing, even though they're in prison, right? Are they making good choices? Um, I don't know what kind of choices are good in prison, but I think there might be some that are better than others. And and I think it's especially difficult when at the age of 15, Eric was, but anytime under the age of 25, truthfully, a kid, a child, a young person, when they just drop that hammer and say, you're gonna die in prison. You're not worth anything, and that's where you'll be for the rest of your life. There's really no hope. And Marshawn said he clung to his hope, which is really difficult to do when you exhaust every legal option and you're just like faced with this, like, how do you do this? And I think there's always some part of you as a parent that believes you someday they will get out because it can't really be real. um and Eric was in 27 and a half years, and then he got out, and maybe that's when, like, the real challenges started. I will say he went in at 15 and got out at like 45 or something, 44. And it was hard after parenting for all those years, um, to try to take a step back and not constantly remind him of what the right choices are. Which the right choices are my choices, not necessarily his choices. And now I have, worries about him driving and things like that. And it's just like, if I see the roads are bad, I'm, oh my gosh, uh, does he know how to drive on ice? just just like regular, like, mom things, which is great. But um, it's it's actually, and again, when you're asked to relive those moments, sometimes when you go back, it can be traumatizing. I'll tell you the most traumatizing thing, I think, since Eric's been out or anything else, is when I have to go back into the Cook County courthouse. And it's the craziest thing. It's so devastating to relive that feeling. You don't even think you're doing that. But if I pull up and I park 2 blocks away or something, I find my steps slowing as I walk in without even realizing it, because the dread of going in that building is so horrific, and sitting in a courtroom is so horrific. And I did it for so many of the moms in my family group because we needed each other. But that's probably been one of my biggest challenges, is going back into that courthouse, which, if anyone's been there, it's not fun the first time you go in ever, but it never gets better for anyone.
Yeah, that's definitely true, Jules. You definitely are like what we always like to call you. Also, we like to call you formerly incarcerated too, right? I think that goes with, anybody, mother, like she said, also, who has a loved one, incarcerated. They definitely do that time with their loved ones. So, and this next question is basically um for everyone. I don't know who would want to go first or who would want to come off, but we really just want to know, what do you want people to take away from this project and the what it is that we've been talking about here today? So y'all gonna make me call on somebody? Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to go with Corey. Corey, what do you want people to take away from what we're talking about today and what you've shared with the people on this webinar?
Well, the main thing is what we are showing is we are not our convictions. Uh, a lot of us made terrible mistakes as youth, as kids. Uh, but look at what we are doing now. There's there's no incentive once we're released to so-called continue to fake it, as some like to say, "Oh, he just faking it, get out. He just faking." There's no incentive to do that now. So now what are we doing? We're actually being who we said we were. You know, and it's many others that would actually be great for this world if given the opportunity to be a part of it. And me and Eric was talking about this, and it's like I can't do nothing but smile every time I think about the numerous brothers that I was incarcerated with for from various parts of Illinois, different backgrounds, socioeconomic and all, uh, that are out now, especially in the Chicagoland area, doing great things. You know, and again, it's not for look at me. It's because we are, for one, it's in us, but also we are appreciative for the countless individuals, uh, Miss Anderson, Julie in particular, that never gave up on us. You know, that organized or helped organize bus rides and trips down to Menard around the holidays for people to actually be able to see their loved ones. You know, and we are paying it forward. We are a lot of our actions are in appreciation for what was done for us. You know, I tell people when people say do unto others as you want others to do unto you, I don't. I'm not saying it's not something good to strive for, but I don't do unto others that I want to do unto me. I treat everybody as if they was my nieces or nephews.
Right.
I can handle certain situations, but I'm not sure that my niece or nephew could potentially handle certain situations. So that's one of my guiding principles. I treat everybody, regardless of your age, background, or anything, as if you are my niece or my nephew.
Definitely. Words to live by. Thank you, Corey. Eric, same question. What do you want people to take away from what we've been talking about here today?
Well, I think very similar to what Corey was talking about. I want people to see like the work that we do out here. That you know, I'm a big one for put your money where your mouth is and don't talk about it, be about it, and walk the walk and all. I'm for all those cliches that say like put that work in and do those things. And I would just say that like my community, which I consider the people who have been impacted by the Department of Corrections and the criminal legal system in Illinois. My community is full of people who want to do the work, and I don't, pretend to try to explain how amazed I am at the privilege that I have been given with the opportunities for the work that I do, right? Like sharing these tools that have helped me heal and give myself permission to live, like, and not try to make self-destructive choices. Though being given those tools, being able to share that with the people that I grew up with, the people that I love, that I've known my whole life, like, man, that's an amazing thing. And I hope that people can see from these stories, from this situation that like that is who is incarcerated, just like everybody else. That's kind of my hope, man.
Appreciate that, E. Like, because that's real, right? A lot of us grew up together, behind that 33-foot wall. So that definitely is something to be taken into consideration. Marshawn, same question.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to share, like, when I was incarcerated, one of the things I carried home with me was like a lot of conversations I had with people when I was incarcerated about, once you're convicted of a crime, you get out, you can't do this and you can't do that. And it is true that there are a lot of barriers out there that keep us from doing things. And it's basically because of society's perceptions of who we are, and our the limitations they put on us. Um, but I hope that one of the things that people take away from my story and from this conversation generally is that the sky is the limit. You know, that we, as everyone says, like the name of this project, that we are more than a conviction. We are people. We are human beings. We made mistakes, but we're able to overcome them. We're able to come home and make positive contributions to society. And so I hope that hearing this message today, hearing our stories and reading the report and learning more will get open people's minds up to see the possibilities of people who are incarcerated now, what they can do when they come home. Because I can tell you that, and I say this all the time regard to me, but and I think it's safe to say it now, as far as Corey and Eric and you and all the other formerly incarcerated people, we are not the exception to the rule here. We are examples of what we left behind, because I know I've met some really fabulous people that were incarcerated, who've done some cause harm, but I believe they deserve to be here as much as I do, and they're not because they were a few years older or whatever the case may be. But I hope that this conversation will help people broaden their minds to what's possible if giving people a first or second or third chance, to be back into society and to make a difference and make a positive contribution to their communities.
Thank you, Marshawn. Because I know we all are still in touch with some of those guys, right? They living vicariously through us. So we definitely are paving the way. Jules, same question to you, Julie.
Okay, I'm going to say that what I'd like people to do or get out of this would be, I'd like to see them stand up and really yell and really make some noise and join us. Join us in our fight, be it calling your legislators, going to Springfield. I'm Catholic, and in the Catholic Church, they have a saying: give what you can, either your time, your treasure, or your talent. Every one of us has something that we can give to this, because we need to really stop this horrendous, barbaric practice of sentencing our children. We're losing so much as a society, sentencing them to die in prison or for equally long, crazy sentences. So I would just like everyone to stand up, and especially those I've read in the chat, some of you have your loved ones still incarcerated. And I would say, don't be afraid. Tell your story. There's people who'll embrace you.
Thank you, Jules. Definitely inspirational words. Doc, Miss Kinfact, Michelle Kinfact, you same question.
Well, I will echo Julie and say people, have to join the fight. One of the questions we asked our participant was, what would you like people who have never been system impacted, who don't know much about a system, you know, take from this project? And all of them said the same thing. It's get involved. You don't know, it may happen to you one day. It has not happened to you yet, but it may. We never knew we are going to be in this situation, and we find ourselves in this situation. So it's good to do some research, get involved as much as you can, and just to advance the fight, as Julie said.
Thank you, Michelle. And Kareem, bring us on home.
Thank you. Yeah, I want people to recognize through the stories and the project and the folks who are on the call with us today that Chicago and Illinois is a better place having these folks home, to be in their communities and with their families and doing good work and fighting the fight. And I think that we also have to recognize, as Eric and others have, and Marshawn and Corey have mentioned, that um, there are many who are still behind bars who have not been given that opportunity yet. And so we need to continue to do this work to advocate for them. We have seen a lot of progress be made in Illinois, thanks to the work of Restore Justice and other organizations. We have youthful parole now, in the state, which is huge. But it is not yet retroactive. And so we need to make sure that we make it retroactive so that the people who are still incarcerated with these sentences have the same opportunities to come home. Um, and we also need to do more. We need to reform sentencing in the state and across the country to ensure that children and young people do not receive extreme sentences, as they're in fact impacted by brain science and immaturity, and they also have the most capability for transformation and change. So as with all others, I encourage everyone on this call to become involved, speak to your legislators, read the stories that are part of this project. I think that they are extremely powerful, and let's start to make some change.
Perfectly said. And I just want to add that my hope that people take away from this is that um, people who have served extreme sentences are coming home, and we were making real progress, right? We're changing hearts, we're changing minds. I go down to Springfield, as much as the legislators do, right? And I feel like I'm speaking for those individuals uh, more so, um, that really want to be able to come home and do the things that I'm doing, right? So, and like Julie and Kareem basically said, the call to action, more so, just like some of the questions that were in the chat, people want to know what can they do, more so to get more involved, and that is as simple as reaching out to organizations such as Restore Justice, such as IPP, Illinois Prison Project, just to figure out ways to how, more so, that you can get involved. But I think the biggest call to action, more so, and it suits for what we do as an organization, um, is getting in contact with your legislators, right? We have a piece of legislation that deals in retroactivity, more so, that would give individuals such as myself, Corey, Marshawn, Eric, and a whole host of other individuals, that would give them a chance to come home and do the things that we're doing. So we just want to give that information. The number for this legislation is House Bill 3332. It's a retroactive resentencing bill, which was filed by leader Teresa Ma. That addresses retroactivity, and this is something that we definitely need to be talking about in Illinois. And we ask that you please let your legislators know that this is an issue that you support, and this is something that we actually can help you on, at Restore Justice. And we just want to make sure that you don't forget to read the report and the stories. Just like Marshawn said a little earlier, when you do read that, you start to look at things from a different perspective, and it makes you ask questions, right? So, um, I just wanted to say that, and I just want to say thank you to the panelists. This is definitely inspiring, and I do think that we have time to answer a few questions from the chat. I know one particular question actually came up a couple times. Um, Folks want to know, exactly what it is that they can do. And I think I'm gonna ask Jules. Jules, can you speak on a little bit more on how individuals can get involved, just with us, with other organizations, and certain things that they can do?
I'll tell you, it's a lot easier now than it was in 1995. There's more out there. I would say Restore Justice. We have an advocacy team that meets on Fridays during session, and it keeps you up to date on the bills we're trying to pass. We have several coming up in this session. Super excited. Retroactivity is one of them for the youthful parole bill, youthful parole period. And if it can go backwards, it's going forward now. If it can go backwards, it would help a lot of people who really need it. Also, I run a loved ones support and advocacy group. So if you want to come in and share your story with other people who have those stories and really feel comfort, you can join my group, which Lizzie put in the chat. It's CRIC, Communities and Relatives of Illinois Incarcerated Citizens. And I would say most of all, you can just call your legislator, your state senator, your state representative, and tell them that you believe in chances for young people. And even if you don't know the legislation, one of the most common remarks I think or pushbacks we get from legislators is, "Oh, my constituents wouldn't like that." And I don't think their constituents know that we really were sentencing children to die in prison. I don't think that most people in this state really truly understood that sentence. So I think that you can do that automatically. And I would just switch it over to James and he can talk about the advocacy team.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was a perfect intro. Thank you, Jules. So with the advocacy team, which will be starting in the next couple of weeks, what we do is we just come together on Fridays, once a week from 12 to 12:30, and we give updates on what's going on in Springfield, whether it's with our legislation or any other organization's legislation. Right, we deal in the heavy-ended issues, so we just like to report back. And depending on where we are with certain legislation, we like to have certain call to actions and certain asks. So depending on what it is that we're doing, we may ask individuals to fill out a witness slip, and those are things that we show people how to do. So and not only that, we just more so give people information, right? I think that's the biggest thing that we can do. We just inform people, and we try to make sure that they get the correct information moving forward. So if they do want to share, or if they do want to bring somebody in, right, they definitely have the right information. So thanks for that plug, Jules. Um, I know we had a few other questions, but I want Eric to answer this question for me. It says, "What keeps you so strong and determined to do the work?"
Me?
Yes, you.
Oh man. Well, I had answered that in the thing, and I said that I found living with purpose as a way to be, right? Like
Right.
that is what keeps me so strong. I mean, like I feel like, man, when whatever the amount of time, whatever, man, if you've been in the deep water and your toes have touched the bottom of that place and you kick for the surface and splash through and you're breathing clean air again, man, I feel like, bro, like that's what gives me that's what helps me stay strong. Like that concept of, man, I know what that is down there, bro. Nobody should endure that.
No
That's
doubt.
terrible, you know.
No doubt. Thank you, E. Marshawn, I think you can answer that question also. Just based on all the accolades and things that you've done since you've been home. What keeps you strong and what with doing the work?
I think it's just one. It's for me. It's injustice. Like I'm really big on not. I don't like injustices and seeing that in the world today, and so it's hard for me to turn away from it when I see it. And when I was working with Restore Justice and the work I've been doing over a year, I was seeing that like even me as an individual who spent almost 25 years in prison can help move the needle a little bit to make things better and fairer for everybody. And just knowing that is giving me fuel to keep going and to make myself better so that I can be a better advocate and a stronger a stronger advocate and try to make things better. So I think that's what it is for me, is just seeing all the stuff that's going on in the world and realizing that even though I'm just one individual, I can help move that needle a little bit and know that I can. And that's actually one of my favorite quotes, Karen. Um, uh, One from Dr. King, "Injustice Anywhere, the threat to justice everywhere." But it's just seeing that and knowing that I can help make a difference, even if just a little bit. If I can use my rest of my life on earth to help change something a little bit, it's well worth it. So
Definitely. Well said. And I like to answer that question also. I think the thing that keeps me strong is that, I hear it a lot when I'm down there, more so like, at first, it was kind of overlooked, but now, legislators and legislative staff, they see me there, every time that they're there. Right. And I think that just shows that, that level, I guess you could say I was somewhat like a sponge, right? I think, a lot of the times during my incarceration, I really didn't understand the process, right? I was really just looking for information with something, a piece of legislation that helped me, right? And now that I've learned about the process and the things that, that have to go into the process, right? I've learned that, and now, that's what really keeps me going, right? I get to tell people exactly the process, right? Because once you know that, now you actually can navigate that process a little bit better because you know what you're facing. So I just wanted to add that, and we are coming up on time, but I just really wanted to say, thank you to all the panelists. I know every one of you personally. I've worked with you in different capacities. Corey, you definitely were very instrumental in me, focusing. And when it was time for us to come home, that was that brotherhood that we started in Menard. Um, so I definitely want to thank you. And this was, a good chance for everybody to really talk about their experiences, from different aspects. Um, and also, I just want to reiterate one more time, please don't forget to read the stories and to read that report. I think it will definitely, put a nice cap on what it is that you heard here today. And it'll definitely give you a little bit more inspiration because you get to read about a few other individuals besides myself, Marshawn, Corey, and Eric. So that is that is it. And I definitely want to say I appreciate everyone who definitely spent, this time with us today. And hopefully everybody has a good rest of your day, and stay warm and be safe.